Hello. Right, this week for World Book Day, we're going to be reading you a special book, and it's been chosen by Mrs. de Gilbert, and it's called Counting On Katherine. Okay, and it's a different story to the one that you might know about, because this story is based around Apollo 13 and the true story of Apollo 13. So I've watched that film. It's one of my favourite films. I love to watch that film, but now I'm not so sure because it's not really the truth. So in this book, it's going to tell you the truth about what really happened. Okay, so Counting on Katherine. Here is Katherine. And here is some mathematics that she's doing. Very impressive. Katherine loved to count. She counted the steps to the road, she counted the steps to the church, the number of dishes and spoons she washed in the bright white sink. She was a good girl, wasn't she? Counting and doing the dishes. The only thing she didn't count were the stars in the sky. I like to count the stars in the sky. Only a fool, she thought, would try that. Maybe I am a fool, but I like it anyway. Even so, the stars sparked her imagination. That's why I like to count the stars. What was out there? Katherine yearned to know as much as she could about numbers and about the universe and about everything. And there's Katherine looking out of her window and thinking, what's out there? Katherine's boundless curiosity turned her into a star student. She was so bright she skipped 3 whole school years. She catapulted right past her brother, and he wasn't too happy about that. And here is Katherine at school, doing all that mathematics on the board, showing herself to be a really bright star in her class. I wonder what nationality she is, and I wonder if that's why she's managed to skip school years, because she can't do that here. Okay, we'll find out more later. Oh, look, I've got the book. I think Mrs. Wood started this book and I'm going to carry on. So, it says by the time she turned 10, Katherine was ready for high school. But back then, America was legally segregated by race. Do you know what segregated means? Segregated means that you're not allowed to do things because of the race that you are. And there's Katherine, look at the bottom. It says, her town's high school didn't admit black students of any age. Katherine burned with fury. She wanted more than anything to keep learning. There was still so much to know. Count on me, Katherine's father told her. Look, there's Katherine's father talking to Katherine. By working night and day, he earned enough money to move the family to a town with a black high school. And if you look really closely, there's their car there, and they're going to the Institute of West Virginia. They're driving up this road to go to a different town so that she can go to a school. Katherine loved high school. She was good at every subject. But if you look closely, you'll see which was her favourite. Maths was her favourite. She dreamed of becoming a research mathematician, making discoveries about the number patterns that are the foundations of our universe. In those days, there were no jobs as research mathematicians for women. Professions most available to them were teaching and nursing. So Katherine became a primary school teacher. She liked her job and she loved her students, but she never stopped dreaming about exploring numbers.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hunter. Let's have a look where we got up to in our story, Counting on Katherine. So if I remember rightly, Mrs. Hunter said that Katherine became a primary school teacher, but she dreamed of being more. So let's see what happens next in our story. So it says, and this is our lovely picture. In the 1950s, the US government's National Advisory Committee of Aeronautics, the NACA, hired thousands of new employees. It even started hiring black women as mathematicians. Katherine heard about the mathematician jobs. Her heart raced with excitement. Perhaps her dream could come true all along. But when she applied for one of the positions, she was told that they were already filled. Katherine had to wait a whole year until new spots opened up. Her patience paid off. She got the job. So you can see here Katherine being really patient and really wanting to go to this institute, but she's got to wait. So this is our next section. You can see lots of women working in the office. So it says, a few years later, the Soviet Union, now the Soviet Union became Russia, but at the time it's called the Soviet Union. A few years later, the Soviet Union sent a rocket ship into space, launching the space race with the United States. NACA was rolled into a new space agency, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, or NASA. Katherine now found herself at the heart of America's space program. She worked as a computer. Electronic computers hadn't existed yet and weren't widely used. Calculating long series of numbers in her head. There's no calculators, she's working out the maths in her head. All the computers were women. They were given the tasks that men thought were boring or unimportant. They didn't bother Katherine. She knew that without her contributions, a spaceship couldn't reach its destination, nor safely return to Earth. So we were all counting on her to use her clever brain, and all of these other women to use their brain and be human computers to work out the maths that's going to help a rocket get into space and get to the moon. So you can see here, it says, here's why. Sending a rocket ship into space is like throwing a ball into the air. So you can see here, this little girl's throwing a ball into the air. At first, the force of the throw sends the ball up, up, up. But as the energy runs out, the ball's path curves back towards the ground. Where it lands depends on what angle it was thrown and how high and how fast it flew. Because maths is kind of like a language, Katherine could ask those questions. How high would the rocket ship go and how fast would it travel? Using numbers. And numbers would provide the all-important answer. Where would it land? To find out, Katherine plotted the numbers she calculated onto a graph. When she joined the points together, they formed a curved line. At the end of that line was Earth at the time the rocket ship launched. The other was where the Earth would be when the ship landed. So have a little look. There's Katherine drawing her map to see where that rocket needs to set off and where it will land when it comes back down. So I'm going to hand over now to Mr. Patchett to read the next bit of the story and see if Katherine's maths helped her get a rocket into space. Here you go, Mr. Patchett.
So, let's have a look. Katherine's reputation for accuracy and strong leadership skills, she was known for asking plenty of questions, got her promoted to Project Mercury, a new program designed to send the first American astronauts into space. Mercury's missions were going to be dangerous, so dangerous that even the project star astronaut John Glenn, refused to fly unless Katherine okayed the numbers. "You can count on me," she said. Glenn's spaceship was called Friendship 7. It orbited the Earth 3 times and returned home safely. Glenn became a national hero. A bit like me. Katherine was promoted again. Now she was asked to calculate the flight paths for Project Apollo, the first flights to the moon. "Count on me," she said. On July the 20th, 1969, the Apollo 11 astronauts walked on the moon. Their feat was celebrated around the world. More triumphs followed. Apollo 12 rocketed to the moon in November 1969. Apollo 13 launched on April the 11th, 1970. But on the third day of Apollo 13's flight, the worst thing happened. There was an explosion in space. Could the crippled spaceship make it to the moon? If it didn't, would it be able to get back home to Earth? The 3 astronauts on board were in grave peril. Commander Jim Lovell told Mission Control, "Houston, we had a problem."
So, back on Earth, Katherine Johnson got a phone call. Her flight path calculations would have to be done all over again, and perfectly. It would be the toughest challenge of her life. Katherine told Mission Control, "You can count on me." She rolled up her sleeves, took a deep breath and began doing the maths. She worked hard and she worked fast. A few hours later, Katherine's calculations were finished. The flight path to return home would take the ship around the far side of the moon, and from there, the moon's gravity would act like a slingshot to zing the spaceship back to Earth. To get home, the crew of Apollo 13 would have to follow Katherine's course exactly by burning off fuel at precise intervals. If the astronauts made a mistake, their ship would drift through space forever. That's her working very hard. Determination, perseverance, all of our values, she has it. Katherine waited anxiously to hear the astronauts' report. Finally, it crackled over the loudspeakers. "We've got it!" Apollo 13 was back on track. Katherine Johnson had done it. She'd brought Apollo 13 home. She was no longer the kid who dreamt of what lay beyond the stars. She was now a star herself, and a star forever. And this story has really made me think about what other stars have actually been missed out of the stories over time that I've heard, because she certainly wasn't in the Apollo 13 film that I watched. And I wonder how many other films about historical events like Apollo 13 aren't quite right. So that's made me think, and I'll look out for that in the future and make sure that everybody gets the credit they deserve for what they've done to help the human race. Thank you.